So, good morning to all of you. So, last class we finished the science chapter. So, today I will be discussing about the transpiration part and the mechanism of stomatal opening. So, somebody asked, few people of your class asked that they missed that topic. So, I'm just repeating that topic. So, I hope my audio is clear to all of you. Just to respond, Bharati, Dilip, Mary Flora, Agaveni.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Question, sir.
yes, right. So నేను అది స్లైడ్ షేర్ చేస్తాను. జస్ట్ కన్ఫర్మ్. యా స్లైడ్ కనిపిస్తా ఉందా అందరికి? ఎనీబడి రెస్పాండ్?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what do you mean by transpiration in general? In the right side, you are seeing one picture here that there are three processes. So one is precipitation, second one is evaporation, third one transpiration. So here, what is happening here is, so because of the precipitation of the clouds, so rainfall is occurring and water is coming down, falling on the earth, and water is getting stored here in the soil. Okay? So whatever water that is present in the soil, afterwards, due to the process of evaporation, so whenever the temperature increases, so because of the radiation sun, so what is happening here? Whatever water that is present here, that is evaporating, and evaporating in the sense evaporation, that is the change of water from liquid state to gaseous state, and whatever water that was present in the soil in the form of liquid, that water is being changed or transformed into gaseous state, that is water vapor, getting released to the atmosphere. So that same water vapor here, because of condensation and precipitation process occurs, and that gas, gas is again converted into liquid, and rainfall is occurring. This cycle is going. But here one more process is there, so that is the transpiration. So what do you mean by transpiration? So transpiration is whatever water that is present in the soil, as we discussed in our previous classes, that is the types of water and available water, that is plants, what type of water is available to the plant. So that is, we discussed about the rain runaway water, gravitational water, then hygroscopic water, and capillary water. So in all those four categories, the available water, that is plants, is the capillary water. So water enters into the plant because of the water absorption that is occurring by roots. So this water, once it enters the root system of the plant, it gets translocated from root system to the shoot system and ultimately reaches the leaf. So it reaches all the leaves. Through which element, to which tissue? Can anybody say what is that tissue that is responsible for translocation of water from root system to the shoot system leaf? Which is that tissue? Can anybody name? Can you name the tissue that is responsible for water translocation or water transportation? Yes? Anyone? Yes, nobody. Bharati, Dilip, Mary, Nagarin, Shah. So it is, so keep one thing in mind that there are, you see the anatomy of a root, stem, or, mainly root and stem. So we have the epidermal zone. The epidermis is there, then this is the epidermal region. Then comes the second region, that is the cortex. Then comes the third region, that is the stem. So in this stem, we have vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. So one is the xylem, another one is the phloem. So xylem, what does this do? It translocates the water, sap, and all those things. And the phloem, what does it do? It is responsible for translocation of the solute material, food material. So water is being translocated from roots to the shoot system because of the xylem. Xylem is the tissue, vascular tissue. We call them as vascular tissues. They may be freely present or they may be present in bundles. Okay, this is a vascular bundle where this is the xylem, this is the phloem, differentiated by Cambrian wall. So this is a vascular bundle. Okay, vascular bundle. This I'm seeing that few people have left. I don't know why they have left. Just 1 second. Yes, my audio, is it audible? Can you all hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. So one thing I want to say here that and already in every time I'm telling, keep on telling that don't be absent, join the online class as per timings. But here, those who are absent, they will be definitely in trouble. But who are joining here, and then you are, if you leave the class, then also you'll be treated as absent only because this is on record. సో ఈ సెషన్ అనేది రికార్డ్ అవుతా ఉంది కాబట్టి సో దీంట్లో ఎవరు జాయిన్ అవుతున్నారు ఎవరు పోతున్నారు అనేది రికార్డ్ అవుతుంది సో మీరు జాయిన్ అయ్యి మీరు క్లాస్ ఇఫ్ యూ లీవ్ ద మీటింగ్ క్లాస్ then also it will be treated as absent only and what all sort of actions will be taken you know so if you are absent they will not be allowed for the examinations they will be failed both in theory and practicals as well as you won't be getting any sort of scholarship so all whatever scholarships you are getting Jagannath Vidya Divan Devasati so on you won't get any keep this thing in mind this online classes is for you people only take full advantage of this don't be absent okay tell this thing to your friends also or else you will be in deep trouble okay if you are being absent then definitely you will fall in trouble so at least who are joining here be in the class for at least 50 minutes don't leave the class okay, let us continue so here what is happening this xylem is the tissue that is responsible for translocation of water and sap and all those things so because of this xylem tissue this water enters the root system passes on the shoot system and ultimately reaches the leaf and from the leaves these are again released into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. So here the difference between transpiration and evaporation is that in evaporation water is directly transformed in from liquid state to gaseous state. That is whatever water is there in the soil that gets transformed into water vapor and that process is known as evaporation. But transpiration is water is being liquid water is being getting transferred in the form of gas through plants through the stomatas that are present in the leaves. So here one intermediate system is there that is the plant from which the liquid water present in the soil is transforming to the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. That is known as that process is known as transpiration. So here you can see here right left side diagram that the roots absorb water from the soil and these water molecules once they enter the root system they get transferred to the shoot system. The stem draws the water. As you know, that is because of the ascent of sap, water is pulled upwards against the gravitational force. So here, because of the transpiration pull these. So we have already discussed. There were a few theories explaining the ascent of sap. That transpiration pull theory is very important, otherwise known as the cohesion tension theory also. So proposed by Dixon and Joule. So because of that, water is being transferred from shoot system to the leaves. From the leaves, these water molecules are again, that is the excess water, unused water evaporates from the leaves in the form of water vapor and released into the atmosphere. So this process is known as transpiration. So this transpiration here, the right side bottom, is an experiment where just to prove the process of transpiration to plants, what we are doing here, a potted plant is taken where water is being added fully, and it is covered with a polythene plastic sheet. A plastic sheet is covered, and this is kept in sunlight. So after some time, what happens? We find the water droplets all over the being formed on the plastic sheet. So this water is coming from where? So it is coming from plants, the form of water droplets. Yeah. So that is how we can uh, do the transpiration process that is being taking place by plants. So if you see the types of transpiration, so how many types of transpiration are there? Then there are three main types. One is the lenticular transpiration, second one the cuticular transpiration, third one is stomatal transpiration. So what do you mean by lenticels? So here lenticels are hair pores which are present on the epidermal surface of big trees and so on. You can say stem region. Okay, so there some pores are there which are found in the epidermis of mature stem, some roots and some fruits, which are known as these pores are known as lenticels, through which around 1 to 5% of transpiration takes place. Okay, so around 1 to 5% of transpiration is taking place through cells, lenticular cells. Then second one is the cuticular cells. The cuticle is a outer layer on present on the beyond on the surface of epidermis. So epidermis is the outermost layer, any leaf, stem, or root. So beyond, so above epidermis, there one waxy layer is there that is known as cuticle. So mostly in xerophytes you find. So this layer transpiration also takes place through these cuticles also cuticular layer, which is present on stem and leaves, where around 5 to 10%, almost 5 to 10% of transpiration is taking place by these type of cells, that is cuticular cells. And the third major one is the stomatal transpiration, where stomatas you find on the surface of the leaf. So, as you know, leaves are mostly dorsiventral, that is upper epidermis and lower epidermis. So, most of the time, you find more stomatas on the lower surface than on the upper surface of the leaves. So, these stomatas are the pores, small pores that are present on the surface of the leaf, between, embedded between the epidermis, upper epidermis, and lower epidermis. So, around uh, 80 to 85%. Okay, so around 80 to 85% of transpiration is taking place by stomatal cells. So with this, you can just determine that most of the uh, transpiration process is taking place by stomatal cells that is present in the leaves. So transpiration as necessary evil. So why it is known as necessary evil? So transpiration is a necessary evil because it is inevitable process but harmful to plants. Okay? So we cannot avoid transpiration. Plants cannot escape this process. So that is why it is called as inevitable process. And this inevitable process can harm the plants. So its harmful effects include what? Wilting, serious desiccation, and often death of a plant. So if there is shortage of water, so what happens here is sometimes there is scarcity of water. So due to lack of rainfall or the groundwater being lowering of the groundwater and so on. So many factors are there. So due to which sometimes water scarcity is there. So during this time of shortage of water, that is the sufficient amount of water is not available to the plants. So what happens here is there are few symptoms that appear in the plants like the wilting. So, so wilting is nothing but drooping of the structures, leaf, then the branches and so on, flowers and fruits and so on. All those start wilting, so drooping down. And ultimately, serious desiccation occurs. Means ultimately, these parts which are drooping, they start drying up completely. That is desiccation. So leaves start drying up, and they often reach to the last stage. That is the death of the. That is the all the parts they keep shedding off, and the ultimate death of the plant. Complete whole plant will get dried up, and the death of the plant may occur. So all this is because of the shortage of water. And so if when there is shortage of water and this transpiration is taking place, so transpiration is a continuous loss of water in the form of water vapor to stomatas, lenticels, and cuticle cells. So when this is occurring during the time of shortage of water means a very serious effect is harmful effect is being on the plant that has its impact different ways like the wilting, desiccation, and death of the plant. So mild water stress results in reduced growth rate and reduction in the yield. So whenever there is uh, water stress, that availability of water is mild quantity, suppose not to the full extent, but mildly some percentage of water is available water is dropped down. Then it shows some few symptoms like the reduced growth rate. That is, the plant won't grow to its full potential. It will grow short, and the yield, whatever crop yield or fruit yield is there, vegetable yield is there, that drops. So one is the growth drops down, and the yield also drops down because of the water stress. So these are all the harmful effects of transpiration. However, transpiration is also beneficial to the plants several ways. So there are some benefits of the transpiration to the plants. What are those benefits means? One is the mineral absorption. So as I said earlier, water does not enter into the root system. Water only does not enter. So along with water, there are some mineral salts and ions that are dissolved in water, which is known as sap. That also enters into the root system. And there are so many mineral elements, macro elements, micro elements, which we discussed earlier in the mineral nutrition chapter, that are needed by the or used in the plants for different processes. So one is mineral absorption is taking place by transpiration process. Then it helps mineral absorption. Second is turgidity. So whenever water is being so transpiration means transpiration of full occurs and water gets absorbed into all parts of the plant to xylem. So all the cells remain turgid to its full extent. Then energy exchange. So there is change of energy also being taking place uh, through water. That is transpiration. Effect on the growth and development. Obviously, the growth and development will be good, not like the dropping down because of the lack of. So, if water availability is good and transpiration is taking place regularly, then growth and development also occurs. Then absorption of water. So, transpiration is directly proportional to the absorption of water. So, as the transpiration increases, water absorption will also increase. When this decreases, water absorption also decreases. So it is directly proportional to absorption of water. Then exchange of gases. So this transpiration process is taking place through stomata. So stomata is also responsible for exchange of gases, that is carbon dioxide and oxygen. So all these things, these processes are being supported by transpiration. So you can say that is why we are telling that transpiration is necessary. So it is also necessary as well as it also causes harmful effect uh, when there is scarcity of water. So stomatal structure, if you see, so if you see a stomata, so there in center there are two guard cells. Say, so these guard cells are nothing but kidney shaped structure, kidney shaped structures, bean-like structures, which has an outer wall, which is so this outer wall is this region. So this is thin and elastic, whereas the inner wall is so the inner wall is thick and it is also elastic, and the core is there, which is uh, so this core between the guard cells is a stoma, or this is also known as stomatal puncture. Okay? Then the it is surrounded by few parenchyma cells, which are known as epidermal cells, or it is also known as accessory cells or supporting cells. Okay, so this is general apparatus, stomatal apparatus, and there are find chloroplast, number of chloroplast organelles also present inside the stomatum, that is the guard cells. This is structure of stomata. So this is structure of a dichotic plant, and this is stomatal structure of so here, so this is these two pictures are dicot stomatas, dicot plant stomatas. These two pictures are about stomatas. Okay, so this is opening. This is during opening. This is during stomata. Dicot. This is so uh, dicot stomata difference is that guard cells are kidney shaped. So these are kidney shaped structure, whereas this one, the monocot stomatas are dumbbell shaped. They're like dumbbells, guard cells. And the other difference is that the outer wall is thin and the inner wall is thick in case of dicot stomata, whereas the both the walls, the outer wall and inner wall, are same. They have equal thickenings in the case of monocot stomata. Both these stomatas are surrounded by accessory cells or supporting cells or epidermal cells. Okay? So this is another diagram depicting the same. Then now coming down to the actual opening and closing mechanism of stomata. So what happens here? This is during daytime. So there are two types of stomatal procedures. That is the uh, terms are there. One is photoactive, another one is photoactive. So what do you mean by photoactive stomatas? Means photoactive stomatas, you can say, are the stomatas which open during daytime and close during night. This process is known as photoactive. Means during daytime, in the presence of sunlight, this opening mechanism of stomata occurs, and during nighttime, closing stomata mechanism of stomata occurs. That process is known as photoactive. Whereas photoactive is another process where the opposite occurs. The stomatas they remain closed during the daytime, and the stomatas open during the night time. So In photoactive, transpiration takes place during daytime, and in photoactive, transpiration takes place during night. You can see that. So, opening of stomata, you see here, which occurs during daytime. And what is happening here? So, there are chloroplasts present inside the guard cells. So, we are just taking one guard cell, and what are the changes that is occurring inside the guard cell? We will be discussing that. So, here, what is happening here? So, because of the chloroplast and the daytime, photosynthesis occurs. So, here, photosynthesis is taking place in these chloroplast cells. So, what is the end product of chloroplast? That is photosynthesis. It is glucose. So, glucose C6H12O6 is produced, which gets uh, changed to phosphoenol pyruvic acid, and this phosphoenol pyruvic acid changes to oxaloacetic acid due to decarboxylation reaction, and oxaloacetic acid changes to malic acid. Now, this malic acid, it breaks down into two components. One is the hydrogen ion or proton, and another one is the malate ion. So, hydrogen ion has positive charge, whereas malate ion has negative charge. So, after that, what happens here is these hydrogen ions are pumped outside the guard cells with the help of special protein. Okay, and at the same time, simultaneously, what happens here is the potassium ions that are present outside the guard cells, they enter the guard cell. So, because of due to some special protein. So, pumping of these potassium ions from outside to inside the guard cell takes place, and these potassium ions they combine with the malate ions to form potassium. At the same time, what is happening here? These chloride molecules they enter into the guards. So at the end, there are three main changes that is occurring. One is the proton or hydrogen ions being pumped out. Simultaneously, the potassium ions are pumped in. This process is taking place by active absorption, that is, the energy is utilized here in the form of ATP, which changes to ADP and PI, and the chloride ions they enter into the guard cells with the passive process. And what is happening here? The water potential value will start decrease. So water potential value will decrease the guard cells. Why water potential value decreases? So here the water potential value will decrease in the guard cells because the number of solutes have increased here because of the malate ions, potassium, chloride ions, and so on. The water potential value will decrease. So as you know, when the solute uh, potential increases or osmotic potential increases, water potential value will decrease the guard cell. So here you can see the, this chart, increased ionic concentration, that is the potassium ion, chloride ions are increasing because of the inflow of the potassium and chloride ions, which automatically raise the osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure increases, and osmotic pressure increases, or the solute potential when it increases, water potential value will obviously decrease the guard cell. So, when the water potential decreases, what happens here? The osmosis takes place. Means water will start coming inside the guard cell from the surrounding cells. That is, end osmosis occurs. That is, the transport of water taking place from higher potential water potential area to lower water potential. Okay. So through a semi-permeable membrane, that is the cell wall. So water enters the guard cells from the subsidiary cells, that is endosmosis occurs, and the guard cell becomes turgid. So pressure potential will increase because of the water coming inside, which causes a stress on the outside wall, which is flexible, and this stomata will open, and the stomatal aperture opens, the stoma opens, and what is happening here? The water, excess water is there, that is released in the form of water vapor, and that is how the uh, this transpiration happens. So this transpiration is also known as what? This is known as active potassium transport or potassium pump theory. So this explains the opening of mechanism, stomatal mechanism. This was proposed by David in the year 19. So this is the change. So as we discussed the stomatal opening, so during daytime, what is happening here? Carbon dioxide concentration decreases, the malic acid is formed in the guard cells, then this malic acid dissociates into malate ions and H plus ion protons. Potassium ions are taken in the guard cells and hydrogen ions or protons are transported out. That is, ion exchange occurs in the guard cells, and osmotic pressure of the guard cell is increased because of what? Because of the entry of potassium ions and malate ions. So endosmosis occurs, that is water enters inside the guard cells, and guard cells become turgid, and that is how the stomata will open. Okay. So the stomatal aperture opens and water is released. So the stomata opens, water is released in the form of water vapor. So that is transpiration. So all these things takes place during daytime. But what happens during night time? That is during the dark. So we are discussing the photoactive stomata. So where stomata opens during daytime, it closes during night time. So during the night time, what happens here? Carbon dioxide concentration increases. So as you know, during daytime, carbon dioxide enters, oxygen releases, but in night time the opposite occurs. Carbon dioxide concentration increases uh, due to decreased pH of guard cells and ABA released to stop potassium ion exchange. So here what is happening? Change during night time is the pH level will decrease. So the hydrogen ion concentration decreases in the guard cell, and the ABA, so it is a phytohormone abscisic acid, its concentration increases. So ABA, when it is concentration is increasing, it is having effect on the uh, inflow of potassium. That is, the potassium ions that were pumped in during daytime, they are pumped outside. So whatever potassium ions are there inside the guard cells are pumped out. Okay, efflux occurs. So potassium ions are sent out, pumped out. The malate ions present in the guard cell cytoplasm combine with the H plus ions to form malic acid. So malic acid is again formed because of the combination of malate ions with the H plus ions, and the potassium ions transported back into the substituent cells, resulting in increased osmotic concentration in the blood. So as the potassium ions are again released back to the subsidiary cells or epidermal cells or accessory cells from where they were taken in, so the osmotic concentration decreases. When the ion concentration is decreasing, solute concentration is decreasing, the uh, osmotic concentration will also, the osmotic potential will decrease. So when osmotic potential decreases, what happens here? Exosmosis will occur. So whatever excess water was there inside the guard cells, they will be released back or outside to the subsidiary cells. So these water molecules are sent out. That is, the water potential value will be more the guard cell now because the osmotic concentration has decreased. The osmotic pressure or osmotic concentration increases, uh, endosmosis occurs, that is water potential value will decrease. But when exosmosis occurs, the osmotic potential will decrease. So exosmosis occurs in the guard cells, where guard cells become flaccid. Flaccid means they are they come to their normal stage, and the stoma closes. Okay? So the stomata will close, and there won't be any release of the uh, water vapor. So transpiration won't occur. So all these changes will occur during the night time. Okay. So here one more flow chart is there. We are left with another 3 more minutes. I'll just quickly wrap up. So during daytime, what is happening here? Guard cell is there, surrounded by subsidiary cells. Malic acid is formed from the glucose. The malate ion, the malic acid is broken down into malate and protons. These protons are pumped outside the guard cells into the subsidiary cells, where this is also known as influx of proton ions, H plus ions. The influx of potassium ion is taking place. Potassium ions will enter the guard cells. They combine with the malate ions forming potassium malate. The osmotic potential, osmotic pressure increases, where the water potential value will decrease and the end osmosis will occur. That is, water will enter into the guard cells. The guard cells become turgid and ultimately the stomata opens. So all these occur during the uh, daytime. During night time, what happens here? The guard cells, the photosynthesis stops during because of the lack of sunlight during night time. So CO2 concentration increases in stomatal cavity, and one hormone is activated here, that is the ABA. When the ABA is activated, the it helps the efflux of potassium ions, where potassium ions are sent out from the guard cell to the accessory cells or subsidiary cells, because of which the osmotic concentration will now decrease. So, in the guard cells. So, when the osmotic pressure decreases, the water potential value will increase and the exosmosis will occur, and the guard cell becomes flaccid. So, the guard cell come to their normal stage and the stomata closes. So this is the flow chart of open and closed mechanism. The diagram depicting this thing. And the factors that are responsible for transpiration are, there are few factors which are responsible for transpiration, affect the transpiration. Those are the light, temperature, the wind, the humidity. So light, transpiration increases in bright light. The stomata open wider to allow more carbon dioxide inside the leaf of, for photosynthesis. More water is therefore available, therefore able to evaporate. Then the transpiration, uh, if temperature, second factor, the temperature, where the transpiration is faster in higher temperatures, that is, the evaporation and diffusion are faster at higher temperature. Then another factor, wind. The transpiration is faster in windy conditions. The water vapor is quickly by the air movement, speeding up the diffusion of more water vapor out of the leaf. humidity is another factor. The transpiration is slower in humid conditions. That is, the diffusion of water vapor out of the leaf slow down if the leaf is already surrounded by moist air. So these are the factors that are responsible